It was already predicated earlier by Kong Toff that Masalondulo is with Bilan Ikat Weaver from Mount Matutum, Polomolok, South Cotabato, has actually passed away. Her peerless mastery of the Bilan Mabal Tabi is manifested in her impeccable work, and for many years, Yabing Masalondulo has been a teacher as well, and a cultural leader or elder among her kith and her kin. Her exemplary oeuvre has brought pride to her community, the animating interest in the many young Bilaan of their remarkable cultural heritage. Yeah, and yesterday we sadly note the passing of Yabing Masalon Dulo, and the PTRI joins the nation in mourning her loss. Yabing Masalon Dulo was conferred the Gawad sa Manilikha ng Bayan Award or the National Living Treasure Award in 2016. And as said, the DOST-PTRI mourns the loss of the national living treasure and resolves to carry on the art, the science of textile weaving, which we both share. And this also predicates the second speaker, who will talk about nurturing cultural value in fashioning contemporary Philippine textiles. She is a heritage practitioner from the Philippines. She founded the cultural space, the Manila Collectibles Company, a gallery gift shop, a heritage tour workshop provider that focuses on Philippine prehistory and indigenous culture. As the creative director of TELA, a nonprofit organization that aims to sustain the practice and relevance of Philippine indigenous heritage, she seeks to create an environment that empowers and amplifies the voices of cultural bearers in marginalized indigenous communities. She runs a city museum in southern Metro Manila, that's in the Museo of Muntinlupa. And in 2021, she is working on more public engagement programs that connect Filipino communities to the Philippines with the diaspora. For Arts Month, she's doing a live build of a traditional Ifugao house or bale in the Cordillera region. At the moment, she's finalizing a trilingual digital literacy module for rollout April this year. Our speaker has a BA in Anthropology and Marketing from the San Francisco State University and is pursuing her graduate studies in Museum Studies from Harvard University. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of Manila Collectibles, Ms. Charisse Aquino Tugade.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and I would like to thank Director Celia Elumba and of course the rest of the team at Philippine Textile Research Institute for inviting me today. Okay, so I will start with my presentation, and let me just get it ready really quickly. And this is a recording, so if you do have any questions, then you can go ahead and email me and I'll post that at the end of the presentation. Okay, so I will share screen. I do apologize because my desktop is a mess. All right, so let me present. Okay, all right, so our discussion for today is really nurturing cultural value in fashioning contemporary Philippine textiles. So before we start, let's just do a definition of terms, okay? So nurture. Nurture really means to care for, encourage the growth and development of, right? Cultural, so cultural relating to the ideas, customs, and social behavior of a society. Value is regard to that something is held to deserve, or the importance of contemporary, something that is occurring today, something that is living. And textile, for textile, we will just discuss hand-woven textiles in the Philippines. So that's either through a backstrap loom or a floor loom, okay? So before we start even thinking about what this really means, you know, we should always ask ourselves as stakeholders, who do you serve? Like, what really is the purpose of all of this? Why should we nurture cultural value? Is it important? Is it important to you? Is it important to me? Is it important to the consumer? Is it important to the community? All right, so we should always ask this question. Just as kind of an internal gauge, okay? And then next, you know, when we look at kind of the word nurture, we should really kind of align, Okay, and basically it starts with the community. It starts with the weavers and the culture bearers that really hold this intangible heritage um, in their hearts and, you know, within the community. So what we look at that, we look at the community and their values, and then there are other stakeholders at play. It's not just um, you know, one agency can do something and that will fix all of the problems, right? So we have the academe, right? The academe, all of these kind of stakeholders play such a huge and important role in understanding the value of the community. Number one is the academe, and you know, all the research that's out there, all of the books that are being published. They have um, they have a stake at this. The national agencies, of course, the people that are doing the research, PTRI, DOST, you have the NCCA, the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, NCIP, of course, National Commission on Indigenous People, you have the National Museum. You also have nonprofits that are working with the different communities. And it's kind of, you know, different nonprofits have different kind of goals in mind, and it's always nice to see who's doing what. So you have groups like our group, Culture Aid. We have, you know, there's NTFP, who I know closely works with PTRI. You have HABI, which is an organization of textile enthusiasts. And you also, of course, you have businesses. You know, these are people that run the economy and make sure that trade goes on. And we need to know where they're at, and if are they aligned with the academy? Do they know their research? Do they know the value that the community has for a certain product? Because what might be valuable for you might not be valuable for me. You know, also checking on the consumer, consumers and what consumers want today. You know, there's a huge kind of, you know, we import a lot of things in the Philippines. Is it really important, this handmade textile made out of cotton or abaca? Is this what consumers want? And if they don't want it, how can we realign and just make sure that we're all on the same page? All right. You have the national government and policymakers, you have senators that are doing all the policy and the laws, and you also have the local, the LGU, and the implementation of all of these laws and the concepts that they come up with to just protect the community. Also, there's the media. And I separated media and social media because social media is just a different beast, right? So, and what are people producing? What are people writing? What are their notions and misconceptions about the community? And how can we align that? And how can we all connect together and kind of see, hey, this is, you know, there's a gap in this area. Maybe we could do this. Or is there even a gap? Do people even want help? Do people even want to change the ways, their processes or whatnot? So it's really this values alignment with the community. I'm assuming that everyone knows that there are more than 70 ethno-linguistic groups in the Philippines, and our different ethno-linguistic groups have their own culture and language and all of that. So we really have to go deep, right? So before you nurture, you have to know what's out there. Okay, so the process really is decolonization, and I know this is such a huge word. And you know, as a colonized people, we really need to come to terms with that and realize that this has affected kind of our thought processes and the things that were published before, right? And the things that are still being published now, and the way we act and the way we move. You know, there's still bits of colonization. So I just wanted to give all of you just, you know, points of kind of where we can jump off before we even create a new textile, right? Or create a new textile or change a process or work with the community. I think really, you know, it's the number one is all of us need to do a research. Okay, it's important that we do a research because you know, there's so many groups, you know, people have money for funding, right? It's not lacking if you just find the right group, but do they really know about the community and the textile and what it really takes to create something? So, you know, working with the community, you can actually call your local LGU and ask them, you know, if you want to connect. Cultural agencies, you know, because of COVID, there is a silver lining. We are trying to connect online, and this is just a whole other space all the cultural agencies are posting their educational materials. You have NCCA, you have NCCP, CCP, you have NCIP, the National Museum. They've launched their virtual exhibitions where you can learn really about the different culture. Libraries, online databases. We actually have more ethnographic material culture abroad in museums than here. And many of these groups abroad and organizations abroad have open source, which means anyone can go through and the information is not locked. So you can look at it and learn, okay, what were the Tibolis? What did Tinalak look like 100 years ago? What did Inaul or what did a Malong look like 200 years ago? Can I check? And where do you go? All of the universities that have Filipino collections, they've posted it online. So you have Harvard, you have the Met Museum in New York, you have there's a database called Europeana, which connects all of the European libraries, and everyone can look at that. And lately, just I think last week, was it last week? Yes, London SOAS with Christine Owan and Marian Pastor Roses, they are compiling a database where all of the Philippine collections abroad are connected, and you can just look at that online. So yeah, just doing the basic research. And it's so important that we have to realize that a lot of the early publications are not are not annotated, or some are annotated but they're not available here. So we really just have to dig deeper and be more critical of how we look at textile in our communities and representation and all of that. Number two is, stop romanticizing Philippine indigenous culture. And I think this photo is so appropriate because you see all these pictures online with like a girl weaving in the top of a mountain, and that's not the way it works. The lady to the right, she's actually a shaman, right? I've known her for like 18 years, and she likes to text. She's texting all day long, right? But she's next in line to be the next shaman in her community, and it's just so it's just interesting how people maybe would photograph her doing a ritual, and but she's like in shorts all day long, and she's texting, we're hanging out, she likes to listen to pop music or whatnot. So we have to just stop romanticizing and realize that this is our people, right? And it's just about communication. And then this the savior mentality that we have, like, this group, look at them, they look differently, they're speaking differently, they need help. No, right? People don't need help, right? If someone needs help, they'll tell you. Okay, we can't just go in to a community. I see a lot of nonprofits do this, even different agencies do this. But what do people need really, right? We also have to understand classism. And number 5 is understanding kind of the notion of progress from our perspective and not the perspective of a Westerner or of a perspective from someone from another country. What is progress to you and me? Is progress monetary? Right? Is progress a mall? Okay. What is progress for a weaving community? Right? Also stakeholders, that's me, that's you, different agencies, the academe, we should pursue indigenous constructs of production, right? We should understand that production is not factory style. We don't do well with factory style. It's all about relationships, familial ties. And to really understand the value, we have to go deep. It's not like, we can learn this in one day. This is something that I've been working on for 15 years, right? Also, maybe another point is maybe umbrella organizations should understand the value of a product through the lens of the community. Actually, I just said this. Understand code of ethics. And in the communities, many communities are very traditional, and they understand the value within their own and their traditional products and the life cycle of their own products. But the global product cycle, they might not understand. And this is something that needs to be taught, right? As a nonprofit, it is, and someone with, let's say, if you have more technology or more information, this is something that we should share. And information number 10 is super important, which is an inclusive information transfer. I find that a lot of communities, and this is just my perspective, are not being their voices are not really amplified. It's the voice of the nonprofit or the business or the designer, but it's really involving, people, the makers and the bearers of these traditions. And if you have new knowledge, share it, even if, you say, oh, grade 2 lang yan. No, people understand. Everyone has a cell phone, right? And number 11 is, we should really start focusing more, not on the product, but on the intangible heritage behind it. And of course, sustainability. So what is intangible heritage? Right? Intangible heritage really includes traditions or living expressions inherited from our ancestors and passed on to our descendants. Oral tradition, you have performing arts, social practices, rituals, the knowledge that it takes to weave, the knowledge that it takes to create. This has been passed on. How do we protect this? Right? It's, you do not protect just the product, but the person, right? That is part of this creation, right? Protect, and giving people the tools. All right, so this is intangible heritage. You can look at UNESCO, it's all here. So maybe we can all learn a little bit more about it. Okay, I wanted to talk to you, so that's that. I wanted to talk to you kind of my experience with kind of the work that we do. Culture Aid actually is an NGO that amplifies and amplifies voices and empowers cultural bearers to leverage their own indigenous knowledge, for their own benefit, right? Not for my benefit, but for their benefit, and to see where what they want to see with their community. And we have a marketing arm called TMCC, or the Manila Collectible Company, and it's a shop that sells the tangible products of all these cultural bearers, and it's in Intramuros. Okay, so Malong. What is Malong? Malong is a tube skirt, okay, traditionally worn all around Southeast Asia. If you look at the Boxer Codex, which is a 16th, 17th century manuscript, on part of it, there were drawings on Filipinos, and you will find that they were wearing something like this. So it's essentially a tube skirt. If you look at the photo to the left, you see a woman wearing a malong. So in Mindanao, they very much love to wear this malong, especially around like Cotabato and Sultan Kudarat, Maguindanao area. And I found it very interesting, and I wanted, in our space, we really want to promote this, because it wasn't so known back then. So we wanted to know more about the people that were creating these malongs, because we realized several things. Okay, malongs were associated with Magandanaon, but the malongs that were traditionally woven were only worn for special occasions, and it wasn't worn every day. The everyday malong was imported cotton batik, right, which you can get like Rosalinda and all of that. The youth don't really wear it, the Inaul malong, and it's also crafted from polyester and rayon from like the 1980s to beyond. And you can really only purchase this from the barter trade or the palengke and one weaving center. And the master weavers were relatively unknown. And in this area, which is like Cotabato, Maguindanao, there is a high incidence of women leaving the country to work abroad. Okay, so that was how it was about 10 years ago. And we really wanted to delve deeper and see, what's this all about? So it took us years, right? So we searched for the bearers talaga of these traditions, and we found that many of the really wonderful, exquisitely woven fabrics are in this area called Sultan Kudarat, which is near Cotabato, and it's by the river, okay, in Maguindanao. And we realized that the master weavers in that area are all Iranun, okay? So they're not Maguindanao, they're not Teduray, they're Iranun. So Iranun is another ethno-linguistic group, so their language is kind of similar to that of like really, really old, like what you'd find in the Darangin or really old Maranao. They understand Maranao and Maguindanaon, but Maguindanaons and Maranao don't understand them. Don't understand each other in terms of language. So they're kind of like the mother language group. And if you look at kind of all of the old research about them. And Iranuns, it's always like the pirates, right, along the river. So they're still on the river, and this river floods the entire plain. So we decided, okay, let's talk to some weavers, because maybe they and what they need. So when we talked to them, they were saying, people don't know who we are. They don't know that we're Iranun. They don't even know that we're weaving. We don't have a weaving center. Maybe we can do something about it. So I'm like, okay. So first we saw one of the weaving centers. We found a really awesome couple, Rokaya and Baginda Sultan. And we saw their home and their weaving center, which looked like this. For a group that produces such beautiful textile, the weaving center was really bad, really just not in good shape. So we said, okay, you guys are also using polyester. If you want more weavers to weave, it has to be something that the consumer would want to wear, and that is cotton. And this is where we started working with PTRI, with Habi, with Monaco. So we sent them cotton, and for our first try, they're like, "Mom, the cotton is breaking." And I got the wrong size. So I put all of this cotton in the wrong size, and then, there's all these trials and kind of tribulations. It took several years to get it kind of perfect, and it still isn't perfect. And then we had to change out all of the reeds, because the reeds, or the surod, they were too small, right? The comb was too small, and the cotton threads didn't fit. So we need to have it redone. And there's only one person that does this comb, and she's an older lady, and she does it in bamboo. So we're like, okay, maybe we can try it in metal. But metal wasn't really something that, it's not conducive to the area, because it's right by the water, and Kalawang, right? There's Kalawang. So basically, we just worked with the community. And we still are working with the community, and we developed the Iranon Weaving Center, all right, after a few years with Rokaya Sultan and Baginda Sultan, with all of the different weavers. We started with one barangay with like 5 people, and now we're in 3 barangays, okay? And what is when we do this, like, what is the impact of the community? Many of these women and men are OFWs. They don't go out anymore. So this means that their family is intact, and they all stay together. They actually make more income from weaving cotton malong rather than polyester. Okay. And we're in constant contact. Basically, it's every day, and just discussing, okay, how can we be better? What else do we need? What do I need? What do you need? So it's a constant conversation, and kind of nurturing that. And what is the value to me? What is the value to the community? So the value to the community is, now there are more younger weavers, right? There are more younger weavers who are going to school and learning how to weave. There are other groups now, because this particular group, the Iranon community, they were not empowered, because no one knew who they were. So it's really the marketing. There are now more groups aside from us that are doing really great work. But in between all of this, we would have to sell the product and create all of these designs for the consumer, right? So the consumer has that value. And if the consumer understands the value, then, and it looks cool or whatnot, then hopefully we can just keep this going, right? This creative economy. Okay, so here we have masks. This one is with Fatra, and Fatra is based out of New York. She made it into a bag, the Malong, the Inaul Malong. And then this one right here is Filipiniana style. This is by Vinta Gallery. So people buy textiles from us. You can also get textiles from us. So we can, and then we also sell it through Manila Collectible and other different spaces. So aside from us, during that same period, there were other groups, and we were all kind of like on this road together. So you have Normina by Normina, and she is a group, they're all LGBTQ, right? And then you have Twinkie and her family, and she trained her daughter. Her daughter's like 10 years old and can weave beautifully. And you have the Magudadatus, who the Inuul Festival, and you have Sikat Pinoy, and you have PTRI, and you have all of these communities that just, and organizations that just converge, and you have this wonderful woman, Kamaria, and she's a seller. She was selling in the barter trade, but because Malongs are now more kind of popular, she's making more money, right? And she's feeding her family, and she's really proud of that she's Iranun, right? So this is important. And how do we create value? We need to start with the community, right? And to see, and we were so deeply colonized that so when you buy a product from the Philippines, you notice, go to the mall, like san galing yan? Ay, dito lang. Why is it lang? Why? Right? So my point is really, if you want to nurture the cultural value, it has to start with the community. Next is the constant conversation. We do a lot of public programming because I can see the value because I go to the community and I understand this. But would another person understand this? So we do public programming, such as we have a program called Voices from the Field, where we discuss things like appropriate or appropriation. There's a lot of appropriation going on right now. So like what I'm wearing, this is Inuul, but it's in a different color and I'm wearing it differently. Am I appropriating from someone's culture? Is it okay that I'm wearing this? So these are the conversations that we should always have. And we should always be critical of what we're doing, and analyze what other groups are doing. So it's this constant conversation. We also do exhibitions. This exhibition is on backpacks of the Northern Cordillera. It's not really about the backpacks. It's about the makers themselves and the culture that goes along with it, right? And it's also seeing, okay, if we have this constant conversation, okay, cool, people know more about it. But what else can we do? So it's kind of weird space because it is COVID, right? It's not post-pandemic. We still have a pandemic and people can't leave their homes. And how are they going to sell their malongs or their products or whatnot? So we decided, we worked with Ateneo, Big Kiss, third-year students. They have a program called Big Kiss, and, where they work with different organizations. So for this one, we decided to create a digital literacy program for the community, because everyone in the Philippines has a phone, pretty much, right? Everyone knows how to go on Facebook, but what are people writing on social media? And are they really, if they have a business, sometimes you'll notice that it's business and then personal. So we're doing a training session actually that the Atenean students just translated to Tagalog. And so it's Filipino and English. We're going to try to do it in the language of the community, but this is a literacy program for the community, how to use social media so they can start marketing themselves, right? And not just marketing themselves, but sharing the value and their knowledge with everyone else, right? So it's not just like an economic exchange or, okay, buy this. It's like, people will understand that Binalud has more to it than just being a malong or tinalak or tabi. So it's this constant conversation, and all of us have kind of a role to play. It's really, really important. And as stakeholders, let's just all collaborate all the time and talk every day. Let's all be friends. All right. So with that, I would like to thank you. And where is my last slide? Okay. So yes, let's collaborate. You can always email us, projects@cultureaid.org or manilacollectible@gmail.com, and follow us, Manila Collectible and Culture Aid. Thank you very much, and I hope to get emails from you soon.